In the shadowed corridors of Renaissance Florence, where political intrigue danced with deadly precision and survival meant mastering the art of influence, Niccolò Machiavelli observed the eternal truths of human nature that would echo through centuries. His insights into power, manipulation, and strategic thinking transcend time, offering a blueprint for those who would master the minds of others and shape the world according to their will. The modern world, with its complex networks of influence, digital communication, and psychological warfare, provides the perfect stage for applying Machiavellian principles on an unprecedented scale. From corporate boardrooms to social media algorithms, from political campaigns to personal relationships, the fundamental laws of power remain constant. Those who understand these principles wield an invisible sword that cuts through resistance, bends others to their purpose, and achieves dominance without ever appearing to seek it. The art of dominating minds begins not with force, but with understanding. Machiavelli recognized that true power lies not in what others see, but in what they believe, feel, and desire. The skillful manipulator operates like a master puppeteer, pulling strings that the audience cannot even perceive exist. Law 1: Never outshine the master. In the court of Lorenzo de' Medici, Machiavelli witnessed countless ambitious souls destroy themselves by displaying their brilliance too openly. The human ego, he observed, cannot tolerate being diminished, especially by those it considers subordinate. The wise strategist understands that making one's superior feel inferior is the fastest path to destruction. Consider the modern corporate landscape, where talented employees often sabotage their own advancement by showcasing intelligence that threatens their managers. The Machiavellian approach requires a delicate balance: demonstrate competence without appearing superior, solve problems while allowing others to take credit, and guide decisions while making superiors believe the ideas originated with them. This law extends beyond hierarchical relationships into every social interaction. In conversations, the dominant mind lets others feel intelligent while subtly steering the direction of thought. They ask questions that lead others toward predetermined conclusions, creating the illusion that these insights arose naturally. The target feels empowered and intelligent, unaware that their thoughts have been carefully architected. Law 2: Never trust friends too much, learn how to use enemies. Friendship, Machiavelli understood, carries the dangerous burden of familiarity. Friends believe they understand you, predict your moves, and feel entitled to your loyalty regardless of their behavior. Enemies, conversely, remain alert, respectful, and often more honest in their assessment of your capabilities. The strategic mind cultivates relationships based on utility rather than emotion. Former enemies, when converted, become the most loyal allies because they have experienced your power firsthand and respect your ability to harm them. They also serve as unexpected sources of support, confusing and disorienting your true adversaries. In practice, this means identifying valuable individuals who currently oppose your interests and creating situations where cooperation becomes mutually beneficial. The former rival who becomes an ally brings credibility to your cause that friendly supporters cannot match. Meanwhile, close friends should be managed carefully, their loyalty maintained through calculated gestures rather than blind trust. Law 3: Conceal your intentions. Transparency, though morally admirable, is strategically foolish. When others understand your goals, they can prepare countermeasures, build coalitions against you, or simply steal your ideas and execute them first. The Machiavellian operates behind a veil of misdirection, allowing others to see only what serves the overall strategy. This concealment operates on multiple levels. Surface actions should suggest one direction while true intentions remain hidden. Public statements can emphasize certain values while private goals pursue entirely different outcomes. The most sophisticated practitioners even deceive themselves temporarily, allowing genuine emotion to sell false narratives more convincingly. Modern masters of this principle understand that concealment doesn't require lying, it simply means controlling the flow of information. Share certain truths while withholding others. Create multiple possible interpretations of your actions. Let others' assumptions fill in gaps with explanations that serve your purposes better than the reality. Law 4: Always say less than necessary. Words, once spoken, cannot be retracted, and their interpretation lies beyond the speaker's control. Machiavelli observed that powerful individuals maintain an aura of mystery through careful economy of speech. Every word carries weight when few are used, and silence often accomplishes more than eloquence. The strategic communicator understands that others will fill conversational voids with their own thoughts, fears, and desires. By saying less, you learn more about their true motivations and concerns. Your minimal responses allow them to project their own meanings onto your words, creating the impression that you understand them perfectly. This principle extends beyond verbal communication to all forms of expression. In written correspondence, brevity suggests confidence and importance. In social media, restraint creates intrigue. In negotiations, the person who speaks first often reveals their position's weakness. The dominant mind lets others reveal themselves while maintaining strategic ambiguity. Law 5, guard your reputation at all costs. Reputation precedes presence, shapes others' expectations, and determines the opportunities available to you. Machiavelli recognized that in a world where perception often matters more than reality, protecting one's image becomes a form of strategic defense that can be more important than actual capabilities. A damaged reputation creates resistance before you even enter a room. Conversations begin with skepticism rather than openness. Opportunities disappear as others avoid the perceived risk of association. Conversely, a powerful reputation opens doors, creates benefit of doubt, and allows mistakes to be interpreted charitably. The sophisticated strategist actively shapes their reputation through calculated actions and careful associations. They understand that stories spread faster than facts and that emotional impressions outlast rational analysis. They create narratives about themselves that serve their long-term goals while actively monitoring and managing how others perceive them. Law 6, court attention at all costs. In the economy of human attention, visibility translates directly to influence. Those who remain invisible, regardless of their merit, wield no power over others. Machiavelli understood that commanding attention requires understanding the psychology of what captures and holds human interest. Attention can be courted through excellence, controversy, mystery, or spectacle. The key lies in ensuring that the attention serves strategic purposes rather than mere ego gratification. Negative attention, properly managed, can be more valuable than positive attention if it creates fear, respect, or intrigue that advances one's position. The modern attention economy offers unprecedented opportunities for those who understand these principles. Social media algorithms reward engagement over truth, creating pathways for strategic manipulation of public consciousness. The dominant mind crafts content and personas that capture attention while subtly advancing their agenda. Law 7, let others do the work while you take the credit. Energy and time represent finite resources that should be conserved for maximum strategic impact. Machiavelli observed that the wise leader identifies, motivates, and directs talent rather than attempting to execute every task personally. The ability to coordinate others' efforts while positioning oneself as the visionary becomes a force multiplier for personal power. This principle requires sophisticated understanding of human motivation. People work hardest when they believe the effort serves their own interests or when they feel genuinely inspired by a leader's vision. The strategic mind creates these conditions while ensuring that success ultimately enhances their own position. Credit allocation becomes an art form in itself. Partial credit shared strategically can motivate continued cooperation, while complete credit taking might inspire resentment and rebellion. The optimal approach involves taking credit for vision and leadership while acknowledging others' contributions in ways that reinforce their dependence on your guidance. Part 2, the psychology of influence. Understanding human nature provides the foundation for all strategic manipulation. Machiavelli recognized that people are driven by predictable emotions and desires that can be leveraged by those who understand them. The second phase of mental dominance involves mastering these psychological principles and applying them systematically. Law 8, make others come to you. Initiative in relationships and negotiations often signals desperation or weakness. When you pursue others, you implicitly acknowledge their higher value and grant them power over the interaction's terms. Machiavelli understood that true power lies in creating situations where others seek you out, positioning you as the prize to be won rather than the supplicant seeking favor. Creating this dynamic requires developing genuine value that others desire, whether through expertise, connections, resources, or access. However, value alone is insufficient, it must be combined with strategic scarcity. If you are too available, too eager to please, or too quick to respond, the perceived value diminishes regardless of your actual worth. The sophisticated practitioner engineers circumstances that naturally draw others toward them. They create problems that require their unique solution, establish themselves as gatekeepers to valuable resources, or position themselves at the center of important social networks. The key lies in making this positioning appear natural rather than calculated. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. Rational argument appeals to the conscious mind, but human behavior is primarily driven by emotion, status concerns, and unconscious biases. When you argue with someone, you create a competitive dynamic where their ego becomes invested in proving you wrong, regardless of the argument's merit. Victory through argument often proves Pyrrhic, leaving damaged relationships and resentful opposition in its wake. Actions, conversely, speak to deeper psychological needs and bypass rational resistance. When you demonstrate superior capability, others naturally defer to your expertise. When your decisions consistently produce better outcomes, people begin following your lead without being asked. The evidence of effectiveness proves more persuasive than any verbal reasoning. The strategic mind focuses on creating undeniable results that support their position rather than trying to convince others through words. They understand that people prefer to discover insights for themselves rather than having conclusions imposed upon them. By arranging circumstances that lead others toward desired realizations, they achieve compliance without resistance. Law 10. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky emotional states, like physical diseases, spread through social contact. Machiavelli observed that associating with consistently unhappy or unsuccessful individuals creates guilt by association while draining energy and optimism from one's own endeavors. The human mind tends to attribute patterns to character rather than circumstance, making these associations particularly dangerous to one's reputation. This principle extends beyond obvious failures to include anyone whose presence consistently creates negative emotional states or unproductive outcomes. Chronic complainers, perpetual victims, and those who seem to attract disaster may be personally admirable but strategically toxic. The dominant mind protects its emotional state and public image by carefully controlling these associations. However, this law should not be applied callously. Strategic distance can be maintained without cruelty, and temporary assistance can be offered without ongoing entanglement. The key lies in recognizing when compassion becomes strategically counterproductive and developing the discipline to prioritize long-term effectiveness over short-term emotional satisfaction. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Independence in others represents a direct threat to your influence over them. People who can succeed without your assistance have no compelling reason to maintain loyalty or follow your guidance. Machiavelli understood that sustainable power requires creating situations where others need your continued support to maintain their position or achieve their goals. Dependency can be fostered through expertise that others cannot easily acquire, access to resources or opportunities they cannot obtain elsewhere, or by making yourself indispensable to their success. The most sophisticated approach involves becoming integral to their identity or self-concept, making separation from you feel like self-diminishment. This principle must be applied subtly to avoid creating resentment. The goal is not to cripple others but to ensure that their success remains connected to your continued involvement. The optimal dependent feels empowered and successful while remaining genuinely grateful for your role in their achievements. Law 12. Use selective honesty to disarm your victims. Complete honesty in all circumstances is both impractical and strategically naive, while constant deception creates unsustainable complexity and inevitable exposure. The sophisticated strategist employs honesty as a tactical tool, sharing certain truths to establish credibility while concealing information that might compromise their position. Selective honesty proves particularly effective because most people expect either complete truth or obvious lies. When you share genuine, sometimes unflattering information about yourself or acknowledge legitimate weaknesses in your position, others assume this candor extends to all your communications. This perceived authenticity creates trust that can be leveraged in more crucial contexts. The key lies in choosing which truths to share based on their strategic value. Admitting minor flaws or past mistakes can humanize you while diverting attention from more significant vulnerabilities. Revealing certain motivations or concerns can create impression of complete transparency while concealing the most important elements of your agenda. Law 13. Appeal to people's self-interest. Despite noble rhetoric about altruism and higher principles, human behavior is primarily motivated by self-interest, whether material, emotional, or social. Successful influence requires understanding what others truly want and demonstrating how cooperation with you serves those desires more effectively than any alternative approach. This understanding goes beyond obvious material benefits to include psychological needs like recognition, security, belonging, or purpose. Different individuals prioritize different forms of self-interest, making it essential to study each target carefully before crafting your approach. What motivates a young professional seeking advancement differs dramatically from what drives a secure executive nearing retirement. The sophisticated strategist frames every proposal in terms of benefits to the other party while carefully concealing or minimizing the advantages to themselves. They present cooperation as the obvious choice for anyone who shares the target's stated values and priorities. The most elegant applications make the target feel that supporting your agenda represents a natural extension of their existing beliefs and commitments. Law 14, pose as a friend, work as a spy. Information represents the ultimate strategic advantage, and the most valuable intelligence comes from sources who trust you enough to speak freely. Machiavelli recognized that positioning yourself as a sympathetic ear, trusted confidant, or loyal friend creates opportunities to gather crucial information while maintaining plausible deniability about your true motives. This approach requires genuine listening skills and authentic empathy, even when the friendship itself remains strategic. People share sensitive information with those who make them feel understood, valued, and safe. The strategic friend masters the art of asking questions that feel like natural conversation while systematically mapping the target's fears, desires, connections, and vulnerabilities. The gathered intelligence serves multiple purposes beyond immediate tactical advantage. Understanding others' true motivations, relationships, and concerns enables more sophisticated influence attempts while providing early warning of potential threats or opportunities. The trust established through apparent friendship also creates pathways for future manipulation when circumstances require more direct action. Part 3, the mastery of strategic dominance. The final phase of Machiavellian mastery involves integrating these principles into sophisticated, long-term campaigns for achieving and maintaining dominance. At this level, the strategist operates multiple concurrent games while maintaining the flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances and emerging opportunities. Law 15, crush your enemy totally. Partial victory over opponents often proves worse than never engaging them at all. A wounded enemy retains motivation for revenge while gaining valuable knowledge about your capabilities and methods. Machiavelli observed that mercy toward defeated foes, while morally commendable, often represents strategic folly that enables future threats. Total defeat does not necessarily require destruction, it requires eliminating the opponent's ability and motivation to threaten you again. This can be achieved through comprehensive discrediting that destroys their reputation, absorbing their resources and supporters, or creating conditions where continued opposition would be obviously self-destructive. The sophisticated strategist recognizes when conflict has become inevitable and commits fully to achieving decisive victory rather than seeking comfortable compromise. They understand that prolonged struggles drain resources while creating opportunities for other competitors to advance. When you must fight, win completely and quickly, then consolidate gains before new challenges emerge. Law 16, use absence to increase respect and honor. Constant presence, regardless of its quality, eventually diminishes perceived value through simple familiarity. Machiavelli understood that strategic withdrawal creates scarcity, forces others to appreciate your contributions, and often generates more influence than continuous availability ever could. Effective absence requires timing and context. Withdrawing when others depend on your contribution maximizes impact, while disappearing when your value is already questioned simply accelerates irrelevance. The key lies in establishing your importance first, then creating strategic scarcity that enhances rather than diminishes your position. This principle applies across multiple contexts, from personal relationships to professional environments to public visibility. The leader who remains accessible but not omnipresent, the advisor who provides crucial insights but not constant commentary, and the public figure who generates anticipation for their appearances all leverage absence as a tool for increasing influence. Law 17, keep others in suspended terror by cultivating an air of unpredictability. Predictable behavior, while comfortable for others, grants them significant strategic advantages in dealing with you. When people understand your patterns, they can prepare countermeasures, manipulate your responses, or simply become complacent about maintaining your favor. Machiavelli recognized that controlled unpredictability keeps others alert, respectful, and unable to take you for granted. Unpredictability should not be random or chaotic, it must serve strategic purposes while maintaining underlying rationality that others can glimpse but not fully comprehend. The goal is to make others feel that while they cannot predict your specific actions, they sense a deeper intelligence guiding your decisions that makes opposition inadvisable. This approach requires careful balance. Too much unpredictability creates impression of instability or incompetence, while too little makes you vulnerable to manipulation. The optimal strategy involves establishing certain reliable patterns while maintaining capacity for surprising responses when circumstances warrant dramatic action. Law 18, isolation is dangerous. No individual, regardless of their personal power, can succeed in complete isolation. Machiavelli understood that influence requires networks, support systems, and alliances that provide resources, information, and protection against opposition. The strategist who attempts to operate alone inevitably faces coordinated opposition from groups with superior collective resources. Building sustainable networks requires understanding different types of relationships and their strategic value. Some connections provide access to resources or opportunities, others offer protection through mutual defense agreements, and still others serve as sources of information or influence over third parties. The sophisticated networker maintains multiple types of relationships while avoiding overdependence on any single connection. Network maintenance requires ongoing attention and strategic investment. Relationships atrophy without regular contact and mutual benefit, while others may need to be pruned when they become liabilities or when circumstances change. The goal is maintaining a dynamic, diverse coalition that provides security and opportunity while avoiding entangling obligations that limit strategic flexibility. Law 19, know who you're dealing with. Different individuals respond to different approaches, motivated by varying desires, and vulnerable to distinct forms of pressure or persuasion. Attempting to apply universal strategies without understanding your target's specific characteristics wastes energy while creating unnecessary resistance and potential hostility. Effective analysis goes beyond surface characteristics to understand underlying psychological patterns, core motivations, and decision-making processes. Some people prioritize security above advancement, others value recognition over material reward, and still others respond primarily to logical arguments rather than emotional appeals. Misreading these fundamental orientations leads to failed influence attempts that often alert targets to your manipulative intentions. The strategic mind develops systematic approaches for gathering and analyzing information about important targets. This includes studying their past decisions for revealing patterns, observing their reactions to different types of pressure or incentive, and identifying the people whose opinions they genuinely value. Armed with this understanding, influence attempts can be precisely calibrated for maximum effectiveness. Law 20, don't commit to anyone. Exclusive commitments limit strategic flexibility while creating expectations that may become impossible to fulfill. Machiavelli observed that the most powerful individuals maintain multiple options while avoiding situations where their success depends entirely on any single relationship or strategy. This independence allows them to adapt to changing circumstances while negotiating from positions of strength. Strategic non-commitment does not mean being unreliable or dishonest, it means avoiding exclusive arrangements that eliminate other possibilities. Instead of pledging unwavering loyalty, offer enthusiastic cooperation that can be adjusted as circumstances change. Rather than promising specific outcomes, commit to making best efforts while preserving ability to modify approaches based on new information. This principle requires sophisticated communication skills to maintain others' cooperation without making binding commitments. The goal is to be seen as valuable ally while retaining freedom to pursue alternatives when they become more attractive. This approach often generates more respect and better treatment than exclusive loyalty, since others recognize they must continue earning your cooperation rather than taking it for granted. Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker. The appearance of superiority often triggers defensive responses and competitive behavior that makes others resistant to influence. By appearing slightly naive, overly trusting, or less sophisticated than you actually are, you can encourage others to underestimate your capabilities while revealing their true intentions and methods through their attempts to manipulate you. This strategy requires genuine skill in performance, since obvious false naivety will be detected and create suspicion rather than opportunity. The goal is to seem intelligent enough to be worth pursuing but innocent enough to be easily manipulated. This positioning encourages others to reveal their strategies while providing cover for your own information gathering and strategic planning. The most sophisticated application involves allowing others to believe they are successfully manipulating you while you gather intelligence and position yourself for eventual reversal. Their overconfidence in their ability to control you makes them careless about protecting their own vulnerabilities while providing you with detailed understanding of their methods and objectives. The mastery of these 21 laws requires years of practice, careful observation, and continuous refinement. They represent not a moral code but a practical framework for achieving influence and dominance in complex social environments. Those who understand and apply these principles consistently find themselves wielding power that others cannot fully comprehend or effectively counter. The modern world, with its rapid communication, complex institutions, and global interconnectedness, provides unprecedented opportunities for those who truly understand the timeless principles of strategic influence. Digital platforms amplify the effects of reputation management, network building, and attention cultivation. Corporate environments reward those who understand the psychology of advancement and influence. Political systems respond to sophisticated manipulation of public opinion and coalition building. Yet these tools remain double-edged. The same principles that enable dominance can destroy those who apply them clumsily or without understanding their deeper implications. The student of power must remember that others are also learning these lessons, creating an environment where increasingly sophisticated strategists compete for influence using ever more refined methods. The ultimate Machiavellian understands that true mastery lies not merely in achieving power but in wielding it wisely once obtained. The prince who conquers through cunning must govern through wisdom, for the methods that achieve dominance may differ from those required to maintain it. The mind that achieves mastery over others must ultimately achieve mastery over itself, understanding when to apply these principles and when to transcend them in service of larger purposes. In the end, Machiavelli's greatest insight may be that power itself is not the ultimate goal, but rather the means through which capable individuals can shape the world according to their vision. The strategic mind seeks dominance not for its own sake, but as the prerequisite for achieving outcomes that justify the methods required to obtain the necessary influence. The true student of power understands that these principles are tools, and, like all tools, their value lies not in their possession but in the skill with which they are applied toward meaningful ends. The 21 laws provide the foundation, but mastery requires adapting these principles to specific contexts, cultural environments, and individual circumstances. The Machiavellian mind remains always flexible, always learning, always ready to modify methods while maintaining focus on ultimate objectives. In this way, the ancient wisdom of Renaissance Florence continues to guide those who would dominate minds and shape reality in the complex world of the modern era.